sky turned black, the stars fell down. United we stand, but we're losing ground. One world beneath the iron fist. Voices silenced, they cease to resist. Echoes of hope in the darkening night. Fading whispers of a long lost life. Rise up, hear the call to arms. In this storm of chaos we'll find our charms. Together we'll fight through the ashes and dust. A phoenix reborn in our hearts' purest trust. The sirens wail through the desolate towns. Once proud nations painted in the scars of the crown. A single army marching on our dreams. Unity forged in despair, or so it seems. Nothing left but shadows drifting away as the last embers of freedom decay. Rise up, hear the call to arms. In this storm of chaos we'll find our charms. Together we'll fight through the ashes and dust. A phoenix reborn in our hearts' purest trust. One global army, together we stand. In the fall of the world, we'll make our last stand.
Good evening, everybody, and I hope you can hear me. I know this was a preemptive type of an announcement for a live tonight, but I wasn't feeling at all up to it this morning. And some things triggered me today. And ironically, that song ended. The opening song ended on the podcast at 3 minutes and 33 seconds. So that's kind of not shocking to me right now. I want to thank everybody for being here on short notice. Okay. I appreciate that a lot. I appreciate that the hell out of everybody in the chat, my family. And I'm going to get through some of the opening disclaimers and stuff. And we're going to get into a couple different topics tonight. I'm probably only going to keep this at about an hour tonight, just because of my condition I'm feeling, and I have to do a podcast in the morning too. So that being said, the copyright disclaimer is this channel may use some copyrighted material without specific authorization of them. Okay. As always, I, William Nighthawk, and Nighthawk High Strange, this podcast channel under the Copyright Act of 1976. And furthermore, I wish to acknowledge not all of opinions and the theories mentioned during the podcast are not podcast channel or William Nighthawk. Okay. We at Nighthawk High Strangeness YouTube channel and Facebook channels merely bring the open format to discuss the possibilities of the topics to channel family by subscribing and hit that like button. And please join in the chat, being respectful. And please put all your questions in capital letters so I can, blind as a bat, see them. Okay. So that being said, all right, let's talk a little bit something about let me get that off of there. I've been talking a lot about the duality of things, okay? The duality of our worlds, the fact that the human can have a soul based on light, a soul based on dark, or a duality soul where you have both of them, okay? And they're pretty much like that Native American story, legend of the two wolves inside you, and the good wolf and the bad wolf, and asking which one will be the stronger and the more dominant. Well, basically, it's whatever wolf you feed the most. Okay. So that being said, that's just a quick description. But I want to talk to you guys a little bit tonight about having the ability to see things. Okay. And I think it's important. Let me take this down off of the screen here so you can see me. Not that you want to. Having the ability to see things. Okay. Having the ability to see things is not granted to everybody. Okay. For those that have eyes, let them see. For those that have ears, let them hear. Okay. It's something that unless you know that you serve a certain purpose here, things get a little hectic in your daily life. Okay. And keep you confused, keep you second guessing, keeping you fearful, keeping you so bound in materialism that you don't realize what your abilities are. And, I had a lot of dear friends out this past week with the ECBRO out their camp out, and I heard they had some miraculous things. And I kind of knew that they were going to experience some things. Because first off, I asked them to. And if you know me and you know my past, you know that I have a lot to do with dealing with the supernatural. Okay. Carl and I have discussed it. Corey and I have discussed it in depth. David and Melissa and I have discussed it. Most everybody that knows me, Marcy and I have discussed it. There's several of you in the chat that I have discussed it with to a point. But things don't change. Things only multiply when you're dealing with the supernatural. Okay. The above and beyond the normal spectrum of what you can see and hear in the human body. Okay. And it kind of leads into tomorrow morning's program too that I want to talk about, which is the whole living dead theory. Okay. And the 2012 prophecy, which is tomorrow morning starting. And then we're going to have the open mic where people can talk about their supernatural encounters. But to make a long story short, I'm going to post it on the screen and I'm going to bring it up on my phone so I can read it to you guys. Okay. Because I sure as heck can't read that small screen. So bear with me here. Let me get it. Let me get my other pair of eyes on. Okay. This is, of course, I'm sure a lot of people know who this is. This is one of the most renowned scientific minds in the world. And the guy is a freaking phenom. He really is. Michio Kaku. Okay. Now, he says here, he says parallel universes exist like multiple radio stations. Kind of like what I've been telling everybody. Okay. There might be dinosaurs or aliens in your living room, but you don't see them because you are not tuned in. You're tuned in to only one frequency. Okay. You're not tuned in to multiple frequencies. And that's where I want to get into a lot of the NDE stuff, the near death experiences, because that heightens your ability to tune into multiple frequencies. Okay. So that being said, meaning you're vibrating in a sync with one version of reality. Okay. He suggests that just like there are many radio stations available, there could be countless parallel universes. Okay. Other realities exist, but you're not experiencing them because you are no longer on the same vibrational field as those parallel universes. Okay. It's a way of understanding that multiple realities could exist at the same time, but only you only experience. Wait, I lost my place here. Multiple exist because you no longer on the same vibration. The parallel universes. Oh man, I can't see it now. It just closed out on me. Hold on, let me get this a little bit bigger. All right, let me see here. Can I see it on this one? Anyways, you get the drift on that. Okay, you can probably see it on your screen. Let me get the banner off of there too to help you. Okay. I don't know why it does that. Anyways, kind of like what I've been saying, okay? And when you're dealing with the whole manifestation thing, you have to rely on multiple vibrations at the same time, okay? When we talk about certain cryptids, and I mentioned the supernatural connection to them, don't get bent out of shape because honestly, it's like I told somebody in the one of the groups today that asked me to join that, we as indigenous people have been telling people, non-native people that have been coming here for thousands upon thousands of years, what to do when you're out in the woods or in the mountains, out in the middle of nowhere, what to expect, what to do if something bad is happening, what if you encounter something, and don't be surprised if you do encounter something. Okay. That being said, how do I want to say this? I want you to not base all of your sightings and encounters with cryptids solely on your sight, okay, or your smell, okay, or your hearing, okay. I want you to be able to feel it in here, in your heart, because your heart's your brain, believe it or not. You're taught to think with this. No. Logic is nothing to do with the way the world is. Okay, the way this world is designed. Logic has nothing to do with it. Okay, some people will tell you that the universe is built off of numbers. Yes, that's true. There is a numbers code to everything. Okay, that's just the reality of it. Okay, but what I'm talking about goes above and beyond that. Okay, because numbers were based off of humanity's need to record things. Okay, just like time and space doesn't exist. okay, which is the point of what Michio Kaku was actually getting across with the multiple universes being right in your own living room at the same time, but you don't see it happening. Okay. Um, a way to describe it. Okay, this is a way to describe what I'm talking about. Okay, take somebody that is coming down off of or trying to come clean off of an illegal drug. Okay, and how they get or even alcohol. They talk about the bends and all that, and how you hallucinate and all that. It's almost like that when a drug addict basically, and I know this from experience with my own family. Okay, when they are trying to come clean off of something, they can hallucinate and see things. Okay, but are they hallucinations? That's the question. Okay, I don't believe they are hallucinations. I think they're seeing their own self in another timeline. And whenever they see those insects crawling across their arms or across their chest, or they feel, hear something talking to them, I'm a firm believer that is them picking up the frequency of another you. Okay, the same thing goes with every other life and species on this planet. Okay, we all have different genetics, which is fine. We're all based off of some kind of a family tree, though. Okay, so when you look at the aspect of cryptids, we don't know what that tree is. Okay, we just know that those of us that have the encounters and have had the fortunate interactions, and even some of the unfortunate interactions, like we're going to discuss tonight, um, we know that they exist because we've seen it, we've felt it, we heard it, we smelled it. Okay, so we have to keep that in mind. All right, when we talk about cryptids, there's a very fine line when you're dealing with certain things. And I've always said you have to keep the supernatural element out of the flesh and blood part of it. Okay. That's not to say that something supernatural can appear to be flesh and blood. Okay. We all know it can. It's called possession. Okay. It's called demonic possession. Plain and simple. All right. So, that being said, we're going to get into the physical part of it. There was a report, like I think it was, I want to say 10 days ago, out of North Carolina. I don't know if those of you have seen the report yet online. Out of, I think it was Cary, North Carolina, if I'm correct. I'll be playing the video. I'll be looking the video up and playing it tonight for you guys briefly. I don't want to play the whole thing because it's 18 minutes long. Where a young man was driving late at night on Route 210 in North Carolina, secluded section. And he had just crossed the river. Okay. And he got into a section and he said he saw this pale, what looked to be humanoid figure standing on the side of the road about 7 feet tall. And he appeared to be bleeding. And I don't know how he got that description of bleeding because he said he was driving at a pretty good clip. But apparently this thing jumped in the back of his pickup truck. Okay. And was beating at the roof and clawing at the roof of the cab of the pickup truck, trying to get in the vehicle to get to the guy. Okay. Now, he described it as looking pale and its legs and arms being longer than that of a human. its legs especially longer than that of a human. Okay? Kind of like this. Kind of like that. Now, when we talked about shapeshifters in the past, there are several different types of shapeshifters. And I know the first one that comes to everybody's mind is going to be a skinwalker. Well, I hate to break it to you, folks. Not everything is a skinwalker. I've said it 100 times before, and I'll say it 100 times again. Okay? There are different types. Now, here's the thing. Are we dealing with a type of cryptid creature that can shapeshift that is also considered to be a cave-dwelling cryptid that's undiscovered? And there has been several instances of investigators going into cave systems, especially the Mammoth Cave system, West Virginia, Virginia, and parts of North Carolina and Tennessee and Kentucky, where they've encountered something in the shadows. Okay. And usually all the descriptions describe it as being pale and being able to cling to higher parts of a cave system, kind of like Spider-Man. Okay. So, which is kind of creepy if you ask me. But anyways, I'm going to play this for you, and I want you guys to seriously just listen to it, and we'll go from there. Let me pull it up here. All right, come on. And I don't need my phone going off. Please do not message my Facebook while I'm on here, because it comes on this phone and it makes a hell of a racket. All right, here we go. I better put the internet on, huh? That might help. Okay. It's loading. Technology doesn't work that great for me, guys, so hold on. I want you to at least watch.
Stand up, and it is easily taller than that truck. No. I'm 5'10". The truck is about 2 inches taller than I am. And this thing was easily like maybe 7 feet. Wow. And as I'm past it, I look in my mirror and I see it bolt to the left into the woods, and it looked like some, I don't even know what the hell, because it looked like somebody took a normal human and stretched them out, starting with the limbs. Wow. It like abnormally long legs and arms, and it just took off into the woods. And I just said, nope, I'm out of here. I'm not staying to figure out what this is. And there's a gas station all the way at the corner where the highway intersects. And I pulled into that gas station. I was doing like 90 all the way to that gas station because that was the only place with any light that I saw. Right. And I just stopped in that parking lot and waited like 10, 15 minutes for state troopers to show up. Well, next thing I know, the state troopers show up at the gas station, and I'm just staring back at that road to make sure that it's not coming back. Right. So I tell them what happened. They proceed to look at my truck, look in the bed of the truck, look on top of the cab, and on top of the cab, clear as day, you can see like it was scratching trying to get into my truck. Really? Or when it initially hit, another way to look at it is when it hit the back of the truck and landed in the bed, like it had latched onto the hood for a second and scraped trying to balance itself. You can see that. You could see that.
Now, his description is exactly like multiple other descriptions of what we call a pale crawler. Okay. I know, Josh, if you're in a chat, you've dealt with them, especially recently, which I don't know if you told Ryan or not. I don't know if Ryan's in the chat, but you might want to, if he's in the chat, get with him and give him the lowdown on what happened too. But it's my opinion that these things are coming from these cave systems. Okay. And they have existed here for quite a long time. And I do believe that they developed from a feral human population. Because if you think about it, in a lot of the colder climates where there's cave systems, if you're going to survive a winter as a feral human, you're going to need protection from the cold and the wind and the dampness and the snow. And you're going to need some place where you can cook a meal if you can do fire, or after you go up to the surface and hunt and bring your whatever you hunted down into the cavern systems. That's what these things are doing. Okay, that's what these things are doing, plain and simple. Okay, now I want to play the actual recording for you. Okay, let me see if I can get it to pull up here.
Pender County, North Carolina, a place known for its down-home hospitality, rich history, and scenic coastline. But beneath the charm lies something far less inviting, something most don't know about. Hidden in the quiet pine forests and rural back roads are stories whispered by locals, tales of the unexplained, and sometimes the unimaginable. Today we're in Curry, North Carolina, and this ordinary stretch of road, Highway 210, it was once the setting for one of the most unnerving incidents ever reported in the county's history. A man was making his way home, driving the rural back roads of Pender County. In a 911 call just minutes later, a driver reported what he believed was a man bleeding on the side of the road.
Pender County 911, what's the address of your emergency?
I'm driving on 210. I just crossed the Black River, and I thought I saw a guy standing on the side of the road bleeding.
He told Pender County Dispatch that he'd been traveling somewhere between 55 and 60 miles an hour, making it difficult to clearly identify what he thought he had seen. But then just seconds after the call began, his evening took quite a turn.
I'm kind of in the middle of the woods at the moment.
Yes, sir. I'm familiar with the area.
What the?
What was that, sir?
That's not human! That's not human!
Sir, are you okay, sir?
There's something in the back of my truck!
Something in the bed of his truck. There's something in the bed of his truck, and it's not human. Now, I know the first thing people are going to say is, oh, he could have been faking it. It was a phone call, No, you can tell how his voice was cracking during the interview, thinking about that incident. Okay. I don't believe that this young man is deceiving anybody. If he's deceiving anybody, he's deceiving himself by not emphasizing how terrible of an event that was. He's actually probably holding back a lot more than what he's disclosing, because he doesn't want people to think like he's crazy. Okay? He's not. These things have been here for at least several hundred years. And they are literally connected to the cave systems. Now, you ask me how I know this. I only know what I'm told in ceremony and in meditations and stuff that I do, being Native American. I only take in the information that my ancestors and the spirit world and the shadow realm is willing to give to me. Okay. So I take it for what it's worth. I trust the information that I'm being told. Okay. That's not to say that it might be only 85 to 90% true, that I might possibly be deceived, but I would know from dealing with this my whole life if I was having a possibility of being deceived. I worked with the dark forces for a long time. I know how to read them like a book, and they are an open book. Okay, so that being said, feral humans, we have a problem. It's like Eric and I have always said, civilization is built on top of civilization. Okay, time and time again. Okay, you can go out to Utah and you can see some of the spires and stuff raising up out of the ground. I saw one today on a podcast. I looked at it and I said, "My God, that looks like stairs." Sure enough, they got a closer position to it, and sure enough, it looked like stairs on the side of a cliff going up, and the place was built and shaped like a basically crumbling building. Okay, but completely solid. Okay, so I think that we are definitely being deceived. I think some of these cryptid cave things, these pale crawlers, these, you can even classify it as a rake. Okay, now a rake is an imaginary thing that was made up because of the internet. Okay, and now everybody's seeing it. Well, I think they're seeing basically the same thing. Now, is there different types of them? Yeah, there probably could be, just like there's different types of Sasquatch out there. Okay, it's like that picture I showed you guys the other day about the coyote with the stripes. Things mutate all the time. Okay, there is a thing called evolution. Okay, I'm not a firm believer that everything has evolved from an amoeba, and crawled out of the ocean. Okay, I think there's a lot more to it than that. I think genetics was manipulated at some point in time. Okay, whether you call it God, whether you call it Anunnaki, whether you call it alien, intervention, doesn't matter. At one point in time, DNA was enhanced. Okay, and helped along to evolve. All right, so that being said, we're not going to go on there, but not everything came from an amoeba. Okay, and mutations happen all the time in nature. You can even ask if Daniel's in the chat, or David and Melissa, they can tell you firsthand, two-headed snakes happen. Okay, two-headed snakes happen all the time. Not every snake, but you're going to see it basically when two snake eggs, two cells are mutated in the same egg. Okay, and it develops with two heads. Okay, mutations happen all the time in nature and in wildlife. Okay, it's not as predominant as just seeing a white deer, or even a white buffalo. Okay, which is very sacred to me. All right, so it does happen, and I just believe that a lot of the stuff that we're seeing, like this reported encounter a couple weeks, I think 10 days ago in North Carolina, was reported looking like a pale crawler with extra long arms and legs that were a lot longer than a human. And he's basically describing a creature that has the ability to travel amongst the cave system, come up to ground periodically, okay, hunt for food, and yes, some humans might even be on the menu. Okay. So if you notice a lot of the interactions, and especially the Appalachian Mountains, a lot of the folklore exists around tales of missing people. Now, would I put it past a feral community of humans becoming cannibalistic? No, because it's happened, folks. Right here. Right in the good old Missouri backyard in the Ozark Mountains. Feral cannibal clan was exposed. Okay. This happens. Okay. Especially when you're dealing with a population of people that have been unaccepted by society as a whole, refused any type of normalcy in life as a whole because they're different. It happens also because of inbreeding. I mean, let's face it, it does happen. Okay. Now, when you talk about the underground system, you have to also consider the missing people. And I'm not talking the recent missing people. Okay. I'm talking people throughout history that have just, they entered somewhere along the Appalachian Mountains or anywhere actually during, the times of the Civil War where the Underground Railroad was predominant. Some of these feral people could be directly descendant from people during the Underground Railroad days because they feared coming up and being a part of society because of the Civil War. Okay, something we haven't considered. Then again, some of them could be linked to, and you know what this is, some of them could be linked to reptilian descendants. Now, this is merely theory and speculation at this point, okay, until I investigate it further. I just had today to put this together. So I put this out to everybody, okay? If you have questions, please let me know with caps, and I'm going to go back through and look at the conversation in the chat and see if I can see, because wow, it's really going too. Let me see if I can find any questions in here. Hey, Bounty, good to see you. Candy, good to see you. Joanne, good to see you. Miriam, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Vicky, good to see you as always. Tanya, good to see you. And Eric, good to see you. Hope you got the truck fixed. Eric, I don't think that would be it. And we all know when people are, hyped up on meth, they can be almost superhuman in strength, but I don't think that they're going to be able to peel the paint back off of a pickup truck with fingernails without breaking the nails or breaking their fingertips, to tell you the truth, at 60 miles an hour. And when how he got this thing out of the back of his vehicle, out of the back of his truck, is he basically spiked his brakes at a high rate of speed and threw them over the hood of the truck onto the ground in front of the truck in the road. Okay. And this thing got up and ran off into the woods. So I don't care how methed up you are, that fall would have broken any normal person's body's neck or spine, or something would have snapped like a twig at that speed and that collision force. Okay. They wouldn't have been getting up and walking away, no matter how hyped up on drugs they were. They would have had a broken back or a broken neck or something. Okay. Now that's just my opinion. You know, Soundwave, good to see you. Dead Wolf, good to see you. There's Josh. Good to see you, Josh. Squatch Topic PA. All right. And I know I probably missed some people in here, so I apologize for that, guys. Like I said, I'm not 100% right now, but I wanted to bring this information forward and bring it out to you guys. And we can even discuss it tomorrow morning with me and Eric. But I felt that I needed to come forward with this information. This is a recent sighting, a recent report. And I want to thank Carolina. Oh, what is it? Let me get the podcast name here. Carolina Case Files. It's a new podcast too, and they are growing. They have currently, well, they've been going for a couple videos so far, but they're racking up the views. Okay. And they do a lot of the real 911 audio stuff, and it's called Carolina Case Files, and it's a podcast on YouTube. Look them up on YouTube. Okay. Follow them, like them. Okay. Tell them I sent you if you want, you know. But they are a really good podcast, and one that I just recently subscribed to. So, but yeah, when we're talking cave creatures and stuff, we cannot rule out the possibilities of feral humans being involved at some point in time. Okay. So whether it was somewhere along the chain that this happened, or whether these even have maybe even alien DNA with human DNA. And that's why for the elongated limbs, but I want to make sure that everybody realizes that when you're dealing with these pale crawler beings, sometimes you're going to see them walking upside down, which is freaking creepy if you ask me. Okay. But those ones you're going to see different types. Okay. Because just like there's different types of species around the world, okay, because of different geographical regions, you're going to see that in these beings, okay? Some of them might even be completely 100% alien and shapeshifters, okay, living in the cave systems, okay? Who knows what's down there? I'm sure somebody does, but they're not telling us, okay? Plain and simple, they're not telling us, okay? And I don't think they ever will. That's my 2 cents with it. I'm going to go back to the chat. Actually, Eric, that's not a bad concept, actually, if you think about it. A hybrid between a human and a mantis. You know, I mean, anything at this point in time, anything's possible. Okay. This information is, like I said, hot off the press. And if I had the ability to get down to North Carolina, to this area to investigate it, I would. But any of my brother or sisters that are researching in that area want to follow up on it, just go to the podcast channel, Carolina, and just subscribe to their channel. And I'm sure that's not the only, because they're going to report a lot of weird stuff anyways. So they'd be worth the follow. Okay. So as I said before, let me bring it up here. Carolina Case Files on YouTube. Okay. So, and let them know I sent you. Okay. That being said, I want to thank everybody for all the well wishes and stuff. I have not been doing very well. Let me see what this is. Nighthawk, could this be what happened to the alleged tribe gone underneath? Yeah, I mean, it very well could be. It very well could be. You know, I'm a firm. I don't know how anybody else feels about this, and I've discussed this in depth with Eric and several other people, several other researchers, and even with you all here on the podcast channel about the hidden Egypt being America. There's much more similarities to the North American continent to where the biblical stuff was said to have happened. And all the tablets and stuff from the Sumerian tablets and the copper scrolls and all that. I mean, even when you talk about the Isle of Mu, you know, that's missing. Maybe it's not missing. Maybe it's beneath our feet. Something to consider. These are all questions, okay? And the whole purpose, Laura, good to see you in here. These are all questions that I bring forth to you all because, you know, just as much as you all depend on me for information and knowledge, I depend on you guys, okay? And that's the only way we're going to get to the end of it. Exactly, Eric. Exactly. I agree, man. I agree. And that's something we can discuss tomorrow too. I mean, Supernatural Sundays, guys, 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. Okay. There's a lot we need to discuss, and I want to bring Corey on. I want to bring, some of the regulars on there. I want your all's opinion because, Soundwave, we got to get you to come on too. This is just, there's so much bizarre activity going on. I'm a firm believer that, even that 3-eye atlas crap, I'm sorry, but I agree with Eric. The CIA has something to do with that. I really do. Michelle, good to see you. There's so many, I don't even want to call them people, okay? There's so many disgusting elites and politicians that hide things from us and that have been hiding things from us. Like 1776 being the last reset. That's a theory that's out there. Kind of makes sense if you want to cover up a previous civilization, start a war. I mean, literally start a war, It's like Eric and I have always said, when you put your hand down in the sands in the Middle East, you're going to pull up glass. Well, how do you get glass and sand? Very, very high temperatures of over 3,000 Fahrenheit. That's how, which could be a nuclear detonation. It's not rocket science, guys. It really isn't. It's not rocket science. What's hard to believe is that we have been lied to for so long. And they keep distracting you and keeping you from the truth in every way possible, including Monisha, good to see you. Jonasad, good to see you. including tragic events. And I'm not going to name what has happened recently. We all know. Take, for instance, today, there was a mass shooting in Nashua, New Hampshire. Nashua, New Hampshire. Change one letter in that word in the beginning. Change that N to a U or a Y, I mean. And you have Yeshua. Tell me that wasn't planned. Yeah, the Fae are here. There's so much going on. And you can't help but think, when you put the duality theory with it and the multiverse theory with it, like Dr. Kaku said, we only have see the vibration of what we're seeing now, unless you have the abilities through some event in your life to give you the enhanced visions of seeing into the spirit, what we call the spirit world, what I call the shadow realm, or, could be the multiverse next to us, or different frequencies, It's the same thing with what we're seeing and why certain people can't see some of these things. Okay. Yeah, Jeffrey Nandaldi. I know Jeffrey. I watch his podcast every now and then too. Yeah. I'm not sure if he's from that area, but I'm sure if he is, he will definitely follow up on it if he's gotten wind of it. So he's definitely a good investigator and a good researcher. But I'm sure somebody will pick it up. I know there's Rick Reels down there, who's a Bigfoot investigator. And I know there's a lot of investigators in that part of North Carolina that will pick it up and go with it. For that matter, I urge you all, when you're dealing with hearing things like this, that you can depict the truth that is being said. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, in that young man's voice, when his voice was cracking during the interview, you can tell it was cracking because of fear. Okay? They want you fearful. Okay? The powers that be in this world want you fearful, plain and simple. Maybe it's because they feed off of it. Maybe it's like they're an energy vampire and they feed off of your fear. I don't know. Could be. But that's why I tell you every day to question everything. You have to. Because they're not telling us the full truth on anything. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for being here. I've got to rest up for tomorrow morning. And let me see here. What was that question? Do you find info in the internet that's correct? I don't know what that's referring to. Oh, if you're talking about the shooting in New Hampshire, yeah, I mean, the shooting in New Hampshire it was on the news tonight. So, and it's just odd to me how a shooter's going to pick some place that's named one letter off from a word in Hebrew that means salvation or Jesus. So it kind of just makes you wonder, you know. And that alone should make you want to question, is it legit, or are they just making it up again and again and again, you know? Oh yeah, Candy. There's you know that and see that's the problem. A lot of people don't. There are some of us researchers and investigators out there that are serious about this stuff. Okay, I grew up with it. All right, I know that this stuff is real. All right, I don't have to convince myself that it is real. I grew up with it. All right, and I'm really not concerned about convincing anybody else if it's real, because there's going to come a time when they're going to be face to face with what they never thought existed. Most people don't believe in demonic possession. Wait till it happens. That's all I can say. Most people don't believe in Bigfoot. Wait till it happens. You will see. Okay? Most people that are seeing and experiencing, encountering things today have it because they had something tragic happen in their life, whether it was a near-death experience, whether it was a tragic car accident where a loved one got killed and they were in the passenger seat or whatnot and survived, you know, whether it was a drug overdose and their heart stopped and they came back and were brought back, okay, whether it was a lightning strike. You hear people about getting hit by lightning and being all of a sudden psychic. Okay. It's because that kind of an event takes your frequency and hikes it from a 4 to a plus 12. Okay. And that's why you have a lot of people that have the abilities that they have to see things and experience things and interact with things like myself. Okay. So, you know, I give it time. Everybody's going to experience it very, very soon. And that's all I'm going to end it with that. Okay. You got to question everything. You got to keep an open mind, but question everything. And when you're questioning everything, think outside the box. Don't stay so narrow-minded and focused that everything is going to be demonic, you know, or everything is going to be sunshine and roses, because it's not. You know, think outside the box. Okay. Not everything's going to be of this dimension. Not everything's going to be of this universe. Not everything's going to be solid. Okay. You need to think outside the box. You need to be open-minded whenever you do your researching. Okay. Question everything. And I will see everybody in the morning. It's been a long day and I'm still not feeling good. If you can share this out, we'll continue this conversation in the morning. Love you all very much, and I will see everybody in the morning. Take care, and thank you for being here.
Through the mist we rise, a force unbroken, with banners high and hearts awoken. The sound of pipes, our war is calling. Like thunderous waves, our duty is falling. Stand tall, together we fight, with courage found in every breath. We'll fight like lions, defy our death. In unity, our hearts shall sing the legacy of warriors through every reign. With battle cries, we forge our fate. In fields of valor, we elevate. As shadows loom, our spirits gleam. Brothers in arms, we are the dream. Fearless, we take the night with courage found in every breath. We'll fight like lions, defy our death. In unity, our hearts shall sing the legacy of warriors through every reign. As dawn breaks, we know our name.